Right after the bump with more topics in disability with Roy Rickstrew, the disability your guru. You can check him out at yourdisabilityrep.com. And good morning, Roy. How you doing this fine day?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Better than I deserve. So
Good.
Always glad to be here in Vertical. I heard the alarm go off this morning. That means we're off to a roaring start.
Yes, indeed.
For our week. So that's always good. So what do you got for us today?
I was going to talk a little bit today about the importance of your credibility.
Yeah, well, that's it's always a big deal.
I know it's kind of a given, but it's something that gets overlooked a lot of times.
Well, it's something that I think that most folks that aren't involved in evidentiary hearings and things like that don't realize how easy it is to kind of destroy that unintentionally, sometimes with just off-the-hand comments, things like that. But when in your world, in the disability hearings, because there's no cross-examination, really, right?
Right.
There's just the judge might ask some questions,
Yeah.
but there's not like a prosecuting attorney drilling them. But still, it's an issue.
It is. And, if the judge gets too aggressive in the questioning, then they're subject to complaints, and that, kind of curtails their aggression in the future, I guess, would be the way to say that. But there's really two places that I see credibility issues come up in hearings, and the one is drug use, and that happens all the time. That folks will, judge will ask, when was the last time you used pot or whatever, and they'll get this blank look, and then they'll come back and say, oh, it's been years. Well, it was in your medical records that you tested positive 2 months ago.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah, and people don't realize how, comprehensive our records are. I mean, this tells us a lot of things about people. And, sometimes it's actual drug test. Other times it's that the doctor speculates that the person may have been acting very erratically and is therefore, on something.
Yeah, that's true. And something that comes up, and probably you may have run across this or maybe facing it more recently, but in one of the last court hearings cases I was involved in, it was a juvenile custody issue, abuse and neglect case. State had custody of the kids, and I was appointed counsel helping one of the parents, indigent parents, navigate the system and maybe be reunited with the child. And drug use was an issue, and my client kept telling me, well, I'm getting a marijuana card. I'm going to have a card. And I kept trying to explain to her that that's probably not going to help. That doesn't just because you've got a card, all that proves to the judge that's trying to decide if you're a fit parent is that you're a marijuana user,
Right?
Which kind of is a strike against you. It doesn't matter if you've got the card. It doesn't matter if you're legal. Is that same kind of issue, maybe?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I mean, most judges will kind of just yawn at marijuana use. If it's
Okay.
harder than that, then we have a bigger problem. But, the situation, of course, that comes up a lot of times in Social Security hearings is that the side effects, if you will, of marijuana use or chronic marijuana use replicates the conditions of depression, for example. Lack of motivation, for
Sure.
example, is a fantastic. Now, other conditions like bipolar affective, one of the diagnostic criteria is risk-taking behavior, which oftentimes translates to drug use. So we would expect to see drug use in some cases, but it's unfortunate when people come in and they get that deer in the headlight look and they tell us something that isn't true according to the medical records, and we've got a good source to validate.
So that's interesting information, because it means the drug use is actually less of an issue than whether or not we're being truthful about it when we talk to the judge.
In a lot of cases, it truly is.
Yeah. Okay.
The other thing I see come up a lot of times with folks is, their work history and what it is that they've done when they worked. People like to embellish the things they've done. No shop runs without you there, right? I mean,
Right. Yeah.
That's
Mission
kind of
critical.
That's kind of the mentality that a lot of folks have. Places fall apart if I wasn't a part of it. And unfortunately, when they come in, a lot of times they'll say, hey, I was a supervisor, I was a lead worker, I was a something that was actually not really true.
And it's better to come in and say, well, I was a terrible employee anyway.
Well, I don't necessarily know that you got to do that, but it is better that the judge doesn't think that you have supervision experience, because there are supervisors that are backroom office staff who don't have to do the work anymore. And if you're a construction worker, as opposed to a construction foreman, you may not have the skills necessary to transition to bidding jobs, for example. So, one area, credibility-wise, is the drug use, where we're trying to maybe hide things we're embarrassed about in our past. The other is we're, exaggerating what it is that we've done in the past to our own detriment a lot of times.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Well,
it's much more important that your credibility now is much, much more important than maybe the mistakes that you made in the past.
Yeah.
A lot of the judge's decision will be based on your credibility, because your statements round out the medical records. And if we can't take your statements at face value, it's a real problem.
Yeah, well, always good advice. Anyway, but any parting thoughts for us today?
If you want to give me a ring today, I have some time. I've been setting aside time for everyday appointments anyway. But this time of year, the court process really slows down. Judges don't schedule a lot of hearings. If you've been putting off filing for disability or reaching out to someone to talk with them about it, now's a great time. We can take quite a bit of time to understand what's going on, help develop your case. And what I like to do is I like to get as much of an argument out there at the very beginning and make that first impression as possible. And so when the court system slows down a little and I have more time, we can sit down, we can get good briefs put together, file them with your initial application, and hopefully make things happen a little sooner.
Well, and something I know I've heard you say before is this is a good opportunity that if you're kind of on the fence, I don't know if I'm qualified for disability, I'm not sure, I really don't know if I would qualify or not. Now's a great time to call 882-1800, 417-882-1800, get on your calendar, come in and talk it through and just see if you have a case or not.
Yes.
And that's free.
Yeah, lots of things people have to do this time of year, but this one's pretty important.
Yeah, it sure is. All right, thanks for joining us once again, Roger. Well, we will be back tomorrow with the Morning Waffle, and next week with more Your Disability Guy right here on K-ROG. Thanks for watching.
Thanks.